You're listening to The Bon Ray Show. It's 8 in the evening. Tune in every night at 8 to listen to The Bon Ray Show on Irish News Radio or itv.ie. And you can contact anything that you've heard or if anything you'd like to discuss at news@irishnews.
The Bon Ray Show on itv.ie, Irish News Radio, at 8 in the evening. Today we're talking about the financial mess of Ireland because of our disasters of our government and us not taking responsibility in demanding a better government for the people. Like the UK are demanding that there was a Brexit betrayal. They're all going to the streets to demand a Brexit. What are the Irish doing? We're sitting back and allowing this government through the EU rent boy destroy this country. So let's go through. The left continue to label anyone conservative as far right in an attempt to smear and discredit conservatives. It hasn't slowed down the people moving towards the conservative parties in Europe. I think Le Pen is doing really well at the moment. Le Pen moves ahead of the moron by 30% of the share of voting. That's pretty good news. Moran has even shrunk below his predecessor, Holland. Series of mass demonstrations will be happening in all over the UK for the Brexit that I talked about. Right, let's talk about Ireland and our government, our disaster government. Right, Department of Defence is in crisis. The Department of Health is in crisis. The Department of Housing is in crisis. The Department of Children Protection is in crisis with TUSLA. Leo Rentboy, worst government disaster after disaster from Kenny, the puppet for the EU. We've gone from Michael Newland and the banking evictions and homeless mess, 10,000 homeless Irish, 4,000 are children. We've gone on to the cancer scare when Leo was health minister. Enda Kenny, puppet for the EU, lies after lies. We've went James Riley, the HSE scandal number 1, Leo, HSE scandal part 2, Ian Murphy, housing and eviction scandals, Simon Harris, HSE scandal 3. And also with this, bringing in legal killing of baby, that will be the most extreme in Europe, the most barbaric killing without any dignity or any pain relief. The Minister Bruton scandal of faulty construction up to 40 schools. Thousands of children waiting for psychology appointments. 6,300 waiting to see a psychiatrist. 1,600 have been waiting over a year. We go on to Jim Breen and the broadband scandal, Simon Harris and TUSLA taking children out of their homes and putting them into care for no proper reasons. We've also had TUSLA and the paedophile scandal. We've Simon Harris and the cervical cancer screening mess. We've had Fine Gael, the biggest suicides in history under them due to the banking and eviction crisis. Farmers in North Dublin having enough of the law. And they're going to take the law not taking any responsibility to the break-ins. It sounds like South Africa taking taking the law into their own hands if crime continues to go under the radar. And you have to ask yourself, why is the crime going under the radar? Like, what is the government hiding? North Dublin was flooded with so-called refugees and immigrants from African countries. And that is why, my big guess is why it's going under the radar. Also, that they've closed so many Gardaí stations for no other reason that they just have closed them down because they can't afford them. They can't afford to police or mind the people. Yet they've had enough people looking out on the road for taxes. But there's nobody actually preventing crime in this country. 220 women affected by the country cervix cancer. Then Michael D, you voted back in again. The president spent $3,000 per night in a hotel, and 82% of the funding towards travelling community was taken from them. Like, this is insane. Absolutely. Either the Irish are walking dead or walking asleep, or every single election needs to be looked at. Why would you vote that man in again? Like, he's part of the problem of the suicides, like, of the homeless. He spent 3,000. There's 10,000 homeless people. He spent 3,000 on one night. Could you imagine the amount of families that would have covered? Like, it's disgusting, people. What? Why aren't you standing up? Like, it's one after another after another. Every single thing is falling apart. Like, there's not one thing working. And there's nobody screaming that we take down this government. Like, how much more our country is gone? There's no even point talking about the finance mess. It's the whole country's in a mess. There's not one area. They go on that unemployment is going up. But where, if the employment and all that's going up, then how come our housing, our children protection, our health, and our defences and the police is in a mess? Where's the money going? This is completely built on sand. It's completely bullshit. There is no way that our employment could be rising and that all should be hunky-dory as the main media tells you. Because all you have to do is go for a walk in any main city and you see the amount of homeless. Even not in main cities. I was out walking near a petrol station out in the middle of nowhere. I was a homeless lady sitting there. That's things you would have never seen. An Irish homeless lady, of course. It's just shocking. Irish people are being made evicted, and you're bringing in these so-called North Africans for the EU, because you say that the EU is giving them money to do this. This is disgusting. It's replacement. It's genocide. Suicidals have never been this high because of evictions and because of the banking crisis. Like, this is crazy. We need to take this government out. And straight away, you need to just stop paying for everything and stop listening to the media. Turn everything off. Don't pay your 160 for a license you don't need. Just chuck out your TVs. Chuck them out. Don't pay the 160. Pay for everything, as I've said before, through cash. Start taking control back. And start, asking for people for cash. Stop giving it to them, because you're letting them know where and how you're spending it and where you are. All right, this is the Bon Ree Show. Thank you for listening on the Monday. It's a financial mess, but it's like the country crash mess that everybody is ignoring. Absolutely disastrous of a government. Stand up now while you still have. Do you think our forefathers did stand up? Well, they stood up for every single thing. They fought for an inch of their lives every time, and they fought with their lives to get what we have now that our government has given away. And you're sitting back allowing this. Take down the government and take it back, and do it now. And stop with this disastrous of so-called abortion, the most barbaric in the whole of Europe. And they like to call it that it is like a healthcare. There's nothing healthy about killing babies and without pain relief. Thank you for listening on the Bon Ree Show. Disaster of Ireland, the biggest. I don't even think that we were in this bad of a shape during the famine, because at least they knew who their enemy was, and at least they understood what was happening. You people don't seem to, the majority of Irish don't seem to be awake of what's happening. And that's scary. At least in the old times, they knew who their enemy was and they knew why it was happening. You think it's something to do with diversity or God knows what, and you're making excuse after excuse for this government destroying this country and our heritage and our culture and our homeland. Thank you for listening on The Bon Marie Show.
You are listening to Irish News Radio at irishnews.net. Email news@irishnews.net.